afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today, Top Performing College University, our 2026 annual report. This year featuring HVAC Savings, a BS guide to recommission projects and college universities. My name is Natalie Milan, and I am Program Manager for Post-Secondary Climate Challenge. First, we want to thank our program sponsor, Enbridge, our project sponsor, ISO, and technical direction of Life team. And of course, Climate Challenge, Post-Secondary Climate Challenge is under the umbrella of Climate Challenge Network. Just a couple reminders of housekeeping. Use the Q&A option for comments or questions that you have related to the content of this webinar, especially in the panel session. We try to answer all your questions in the webinar, but if we miss something, we are going to produce a Q&A document after the event. Please use the chat only for technical issues. Thank you. As we all begins our Climate Challenge events with the land acknowledgement, and we acknowledge with great respect ancestral and unseen territory of the indigenous people who came before us and now they share this land. I am speaking from the traditional lands of Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Mississauga Credit River. We truly hope that the work and ideas shared today contribute in a meaningful way to our common responsibilities and steward for the environment. For those who might be less familiar with Climate Challenge Network or CCNet, we are a non-profit organization, and we focus on collaborative data-driven sector programs. And we have a program which cover these current sectors. We have hospital sectors, municipal sector with major megawatt challenge, sustainable school for the school boards, post-secondary climate challenge for a college and university. And now this year we are starting a new program, the 2030 challenge for leadership program, since we are very close to 2030 goals emission reduction targets. About post-secondary climate challenge, we are a member program, data-driven, with bring together all the school, post-secondary schools, college and university. And our main goal is to share strategies for lower the energy and emission reduction. It's a common goal. Track sector use, and we also like to conduct research projects, as the BS recommission is one of those. And we like workshops, networking, and webinars. And of course, we like also recognize the high performance results and case studies. We have more information about us in our website. And with that, I would like to introduce Ian Jarvis, our president, who is going to present our annual report. Ian, over to you.
Thanks, Natalie. So let's begin with what we're trying to accomplish today. Our agenda, we always begin, if you've been following the work of Climate Challenge Network, with why are we doing this? We're a nonprofit. The interest is how do we precipitate, encourage, support climate action in a world that's changing all the time. And we've got colleges and universities on this call today. I don't think anywhere is the world changing any more than it has for you folks over the past several years. So working through these issues, political uncertainty, financial challenges. So the why is always getting into there, and we want to then get right into how is your sector, how are colleges and universities, primarily in Ontario, but we have a number of institutions from outside of Ontario joining us today. How are those numbers? How do we progress in 2024, which is our latest reporting year, compared to 2023? And the big question, are we making progress? Are we moving ahead? We want to recognize the top 10 most energy efficient colleges and universities by our methodology, and we'll explain what that is. We want to recognize for the first time this year the 5 among you that are the top savers that improved most in terms of weather normalized energy use from 23 to 24. And we've got government and utility folks on the line that we want to share information about by this methodology, what is the achievable savings potential? In this case, for the province of Ontario, but we believe similar numbers apply elsewhere. So the savings potential as an empirical based tool methodology for policy and program design is helpful. Then I'm going to pass this over to my colleagues. The what, Amandeep and Mark will talk about what the top measures are. Amandeep will discuss how collaboration is such a key part of everything that we're all trying to do here. And Mark is going to present the results of the recommissioning pilot project, the guide that we developed with the help of the independent electric system operator to allow all colleges and universities to move forward with what we consider the most cost-effective and most logical first step, any step in improving energy efficiency. So that's what we plan to do today. Next slide, please, Natalie. And thanks for the reporting efforts of so many colleges and universities across Ontario. These are the ones taking part. There will be a common theme through this year. The yellow highlighted ones are the ones with data issues, and certainly to facilitate our work, and we suspect to facilitate your work, continuing to address cleaning up the data reporting will make everything more meaningful and more reliable and more specific for everybody. But our thanks to all of the Ontario institutions that reported into the government's BPS system this year. And that is the data that we use to move forward. Next slide, please. So we talked about the why. Let's get into that just for a bit. Again, if you follow our work across all of the building sectors where we're engaged, these three. Sorry, can you move to this slide, please, Natalie? These for us are the key words that climate change is the defining issue of our times. We could spend this whole session talking about just how bad we see things getting as the climate continues to deteriorate. We talk about catastrophic ramifications. We don't like hyperbole, and both in terms of migration, in terms of food supply, in terms of water supply, in terms of all the things that we take for granted, even before we get into catastrophic weather events. Climate change is going to affect us for the next century. Unlike disasters like pandemics and wars, which mercifully do eventually come to an end, climate change is with us for the long term. At this point, it's only going to get worse. Our only choice as a species is how bad we allow it to become. There's urgency in taking action. The 1.5 degree number is there. We're not on track to meet it. There's an opportunity for leadership everywhere, and with our panelists today, and with so many organizations we see out that are going above and beyond what they need to do by the mandates that they've been given, because they recognize the importance and they want to take the opportunity to support. And all of us has a responsibility. All of us, every organization has a role to play in closing the gap and looking to get greenhouse gas emissions back on track to avoid some of the worst aspects of the damage. We're forecasting with great reliability. I think I've mentioned before, I have 9 grandchildren. I do struggle with what to tell them about the pickle that we've made of the climate. And we do need to, all of us, take action. Next slide, please. And we say that knowing that your world, colleges, universities, post-secondary institutions, is not an easy road to hoe. So political uncertainty is there. Policy decisions come and they go. They have profound impacts on post-secondary institutions in a number of different ways. And we see worldwide governments stepping back from commitments to greenhouse gas emission to reduction. So how are we to read that? Our argument today is that we have that responsibility. We stay the course. We understand the budget limitations that colleges in particular facing as we going through the international students piece and all the other pressures that are there. We understand you have stretched resources. I was delighted to see how many titles of energy manager and energy coordinator are still on our guest list today. We had the bad feeling that many of those positions had been decimated. So we're being asked to do more with less resources. Our buildings, our facilities are getting older. We don't have the metering that we need to be able to adequately track things. And overshadowing all of this is the reality that the climate doesn't care about us. It's just marching on the way it is. If we declared war on the climate, not the other way around, climate change is going to continue to get worse. And as the population begins to see this in their pocketbooks, in their physical realities, it will be over time the ultimate driver of policy, of economics, insurance rates, food supply, food prices, and it'll be driving action. Governments will be increasingly expecting us to act, even if they're not paying too much attention today. So these are hard times, but we can't escape the reality that we need to address climate change. And the fact that everybody today is on this call suggests that you get that. Next slide, please. So this is kind of drum roll time. These are the results between 2024 and 2023. That big question is, are we making progress? Next slide, please. And the disturbing answer is not really. So these are the tornado diagrams that Climate Challenge Network produces across all of the sectors where we work, as Natalie mentioned earlier, hospitals and school boards and municipalities and commercial office buildings and in this case, colleges and universities. These are the results for the 44 colleges and universities in Ontario, where after cleaning data, we had sufficient confidence in the 23 and the 24 results that we could report results. Every horizontal line here is a college or a university. All of you who registered would have received a note from Natalie on what your code is. So we only recognize top performers in these events. Everybody else, we code. There's no intent to name and shame here, but we're happy for you to reach out to us if you can find yourself on this chart and discuss with you where to move forward. Amandeep will discuss that at the end of the day today. But the electricity are the charts in the middle. The green ones made savings, in one case quite significant. Good job, University 11. There's many in the middle that made no material difference in their energy use from 23 to 24, and the ones at the bottom had increases, again, in some cases significant. And we'd like to hear from you that where the increases happen to either explain them or see if we can find resources to help. Gas is, so net electricity, a tiny saving. Net gas going in the wrong direction. So overall, a 5.6% increase in gas consumption, weather normalized across all of these facilities. So the summary there is 17 of the 44. We like to report on how many had savings, but this year we have to comment 17 out of 44 institutions had increases. The overall utility cost impact was around a $2 million increase at a time when we certainly can't afford any additional cost burdens. Concern of Climate Challenge Network is at 21,500 tons of emissions. our purpose in producing this reporting is that every college and university should know where they stand, should know how things progress from last year to this year. If you're tracking your own numbers and they don't match what we're showing here, we'd love to hear from you, and we'll figure out where the anomalies are. But we're confident in the data we've received and that the overall results here is that we're going in the wrong direction. Next slide, please. Every year tells a story. The most recent years on the left-hand side here, and I'm not going to read all the numbers out to you, but you can see the trends over time. Greenhouse gas emissions reductions, the second row from the bottom. Back in 2019 compared to 2018, do you remember the days before COVID? This sector was doing well. 7,500 tons of greenhouse gas emissions. In 2020, as we went into COVID, still emissions, particularly with natural gas, as many of the facilities were shut down. Systems were shut down as COVID took hold. We look at the last 2 years, we're going in the wrong direction. So emissions, an increase of 21,000 tons last year, of 21,500 tons this year, primarily due to natural gas. And we have very concerning conversations with Enbridge Gas all the time about we just got to bend this curve. We've got to have the results that we're looking for. But every year tells a story, and at this point in time, these stories are not encouraging. Next slide, please. But there's always some good news to be found in all of this, and want to recognize our top 5 savers this year, the ones on a percentage of total energy basis, weather normalized, that made the bigger progress. Congratulations to OCAD, to Northern College, to Carleton University, to Queen's University, and to Fanshawe College. And if you're on this call, or if you're not, Natalie will be following up with you, because we believe there are case studies and stories to be told here. We want to know those stories and we want to share them with everybody else. So top of those charts, these are the 5 that did the best in 2024 compared to 2023. Congratulations and thank you. Next slide, please. So savings is important. That's why we're here. We've got to bend that curve, move forward. But energy performance is also there. So we have a methodology for determining energy efficiency by setting targets for all the different space types that we find across colleges and universities, and like tailoring an energy target to every campus so that we can make those measurements. So the colleges and universities we'll look at now are the most energy efficient of the group. They have the least target savings. They're the closest to what we think is a good energy efficiency standard today. So the leaderboard coming up. Next slide, please. This all starts with EUIs, energy use intensities. Once again, the same coding as before. Hopefully you can find yourself among the colleges and universities on the left-hand side of this. So this is energy use intensity. The blue is the electricity use per square foot. The green is the thermal energy use per square foot, primarily natural gas, but there are some other energy sources, especially in the northern facilities. And once again, just like with the savings year on year, you need to know where you stand and you need to know how you rank relative to other institutions. So this is pure energy use intensity. Next slide, please. Then and I know many of you are, if you're intrigued by the numbers and the metrics and the math and the baselines and the adjustments, you'll find this white paper on the post-secondary climate challenge website. It talks about how the targets are set. That typically we set them in each area at the top quartile level, which we believe is readily attainable through operational improvements, not major capital projects. We obviously adjust for weather differences across the province and for different space types, and how that methodology works is contained in this white paper. Again, we've got a lot of data folks on this call. If you see anything in here that you can improve upon, we'd love to hear from you. We always like to improve the methodology where we can. But the idea is to set a good practice energy target for every college every university, and that's the basis by which we judge which are the most efficient, the ones that are closest to the targets. Next slide, please. So second, drum roll. This then becomes the savings potential where the most efficient facilities, institutions at the top, there are three colleges at the top of this chart, are less than 15% target savings. And right down to the bottom, there are others here where the energy use we don't fully understand. And again, we'd love to hear from you at the bottom of this chart and see if there's something in the square footage or the data. But this is the ranking that we're using for this year's report. 44 reporting, 128 million square feet. This is one of the biggest building sectors in Ontario, as you know. The electricity target savings is 37%. The gas is 64%. I know both the ISO and Enbridge are on this call. These are the numbers that we're estimating are readily attainable within this sector. There's $132 million a year of utility cost savings by achieving those targets, which we will be advocating you look at achieving by 2030. And it's 326,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions. That's what excites us. That's what motivates us. That's what keeps us moving. These numbers are very big numbers. They're very attainable. They're very important, and we have to take action to achieve them. Next slide, please. So the real drum roll, the 10 top institutions, the 10 top colleges and universities, and including the change in ranking from last year. As you know, we've been reporting on this for the past 5 years now. Congratulations to Conestoga, still at the top. Congratulations to Humber, Amman, for now moving from number 3 to number 2, to number 1, I'm sorry. 3 to 2. And you'll have to apologize to Cambrian College because it looks like you bumped them out there, which is Loyalist and Wilfrid. The data are new this year, as the Sioux College is. Canadore, La Cité, Northern College, both one of the top savers and one of the top performers. Nipissing University. So these are our top 10. Congratulations. You're our role models. You're our example. We look forward to learning more about you that we can profile in future events. Next slide, please. We pass it over to Amandeep to talk about both what we know these institutions are doing and what every college and university can do to become a top saver, to become a top performer over time.
Thanks, Ian. And Natalie, next slide, please. So we always kind of talk about doing these measures. You probably heard in previous webinars as well, like HVAC scheduling and other simpler measures that could be done. Sometimes they are simple, but sometimes they do get complicated. But we do recommend that because there's no other path forward without getting through these and implementing them at every institute. So currently, as you could see, as you try to do with some of the institutes, you do have still pneumatic systems. So those are getting converted to DTC as over the times or as a part of your asset renewal projects. There's programs out there which you can leverage for doing this existing building commissioning work, which revolves around HVAC scheduling. We'll talk more about that with the colleges today on the panels, like what they're currently doing and how they're actually implementing some of these measures, because these are resulting in a substantial real savings at the meter time. As your sort of equipment and HVAC systems get older, there's going to be different projects around refurbishing those. So that's an opportunity for you to consider testing, rebalancing those systems, and checking on the hydronic systems to ensure that they're balanced and they're providing the right amount of airflows and water flows to ensure that you're running those at a better efficiency or at the highest efficiency as you could with these operational systems. Similarly, you have cost-effective retrofits, which are again subsidized by a lot of the incentive programs that are out there, converting these fans with no VFDs to adding the VFDs on those. And then the boiler plant control optimizations also become part of these cost-effective retrofits that are eligible for substantial incentives. With all of that in mind, the decarbonization is still going to be eventual goal to kind of with these all these facilities, and which would mean that you're planning for it. It does not act as a sudden sort of a change. So you're looking at peak reductions. You're looking at an opportunity to integrate the exhaust heat recovery in your systems as some of the systems get replaced within asset renewals. And then you're also looking at eventually reducing sort of the water temperatures, what you supply and heating, so you can utilize some of the heat recovery chillers that could recover or reclaim those heats in their buildings. So all these measures do are intended to be kind of done in a way that you can sequentially do them and plan for your buildings to continue to be on the path of low carbon transition. Next slide, please. Completely understand kind of the tight budgets that are colleges and universities that are currently working with and weren't working there on, but there's an opportunity to convert those challenges into a bigger opportunity through operational savings. So every dollar you not invest, and utilities probably won't be happy with this comment, but any dollar you don't pay utility companies is coming back into the colleges, which means that if you're able to conserve that energy and not spend on the utility costs, you're able to turn that sort of a challenge as an opportunity. So there's a real benefits of working through optimizing these systems, and which will eventually reduce in your operating cost for your buildings, and then that results in reducing emissions as well. So this opportunity that currently exists, and it is the time to leverage some of these incentives that are out there to start these processes of improving the performance of these HVAC systems in your buildings. Next slide, please. So working together is a key in here. As Ian sort of mentioned, this is not something you need to do alone. You have the resources available within your colleagues, other colleges that are already currently doing this work or have done this work. Next slide, please. And then you also have external resources available to you. So for colleges and universities, that where it starts is to understand the data. Like the data that we currently presented today is based on the BPS database, broader public sector. So which tells you a starting point, like how much savings potential you have. And most of the savings potential that's being quantified here is based on that, as is operating your equipment as efficiently as you could. And if you do that, then those are all operational savings. So having that opportunity and post-secondary climate challenge there for you to support that. And if you do need your help, you can always reach out to us and we can help you with validating those targets and if there's any data cleanup needed as well. Again, like this all starts with the savings and target savings potential identification. And once you settle on that number, that's your goal. And then you can spread that goal for next 5 years and achieve those savings and working through it. There's going to be an actual plan in collaboration, sort of combining this effort within different associations. We're not working in silos, we're working together because that is what we needed in this sector today, is to sort of solve this issue, which starts with financial, but also sort of understanding what is the potential within each buildings, and all these associations are working together towards that same common goal. And if you're in industry on this call today, we would highly recommend you to kind of reach out to your clients and then talk to them about the importance of operational savings and how you could help them achieve them, whether sort of providing them with solutions, whether you're sort of connecting them with utility companies or working together with bringing your experiences from the other colleges and universities and applying those at other sectors. So there's a definitely need for industry to understand the piece of energy efficiency that still exists and remains an opportunity in these buildings and how we can implement those low-hanging fruit measures in each of these buildings. And for government and utilities, as you have seen, this is the time for the colleges sectors to get supported. So creating these programs that help them to implement these savings and achieving these empirical real data at the meter is going to help us move that needle and put us into a track where we are seeing a continuous progress year over year and not sort of the results they we're currently seeing today. Next slide, please. I touched on this a few times. So utility companies are a key in in this, and leveraging these programs is also important. So these are some of the key contacts that you can sort of reference to in terms of the incentives that are out there from ISO and Enbridge. But we highly recommend you to kind of work closely, and they're always there to support you. It's you just have to kind of reach out and then have conversations around which are those programs that are applicable and your goals of implementing these operational savings, and then they're able to connect you to the right program and are also able to sort of help you leverage some of the funding to offset any of those financial costs. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm gonna bring in Mark here. He's gonna talk about the recommissioning guide that was recently published, and what was the study entailed and some of the lessons learned, which will help you kind of use this guide to implement some of these lessons in your facilities as well. So, Mark, back to you.
Thank you, Amandeep. And next slide, please, Anthony. So first, I think the question that we would ask ourselves, why? Why this guide? Why at this stage? Well, actually, we had a simple purpose. So, and this is in line with the post-secondary climate challenge mandate. So we want to help colleges and universities maximize their energy efficiency, reduce their emissions, and improve on their operational performance. And all by just simply using the most out of the BAS systems they have, nothing more. So this research actually stems from case studies done back in 2024, extending to 2025 on both Humber Polytechnic and Niagara College, where we've analyzed their BAS, their trend data, some of the control sequences and drawings in order to identify anomalies and shortfalls and come up with opportunities and recommendations. Next one, please. So this is the outline of the guide. By the way, you can scan this QR code to get a copy of the guide, which is also posted under the Post-Secondary Climate Challenge website. I'm not going to read this, but I want to stress like an important thing we have in this guide are the appendices, and really these are key in order to help leverage BAS as a performance optimization tool. You know, it's not as a standard troubleshooting tool. So these checklists include most of the important, ventilation, cooling, heating, lighting, and other measures. So they specify minimum trend requirements and trend points for you to be able to track performance. They include under Appendix B really nice test and report template so that you can measure the over a short period your modification, your upgrades, and then validate them and document them so they don't get lost. So these simple tools we have that can be used by the energy controls and operations team if they have capacity and the proper training. But in the case this is not applicable, they can be shifted into contract documents like service level agreement or BAS service contracts. So these won't be lost and won't be also relying on certain staff members or contractors. Next one, please. So I'm just going to show you a few of the results that came across this case study. Next one, please. And this is one of the major measures we come across when you have VAV systems, so static pressure reset. You would see on the top part of this chart, this is the VFD speed. 2024 is the chart in red. The fans were mainly running towards 100% of their speed. And through static pressure reset, like this is the optimization done by doing lots of things like checking all of the most hydraulically demanding VAV boxes and checking how much you have room to optimize on the fan speed. This case highlights a 20% reduction in fan speed, and which would translate to around 45% of energy use reduction, because this is related to the third power three based on the affinity laws. Next one. This is really just a simple adjustments on the set point. So you see on the left, the outdoor air damper was set to reach a minimum 15% all the time, even during unoccupied hours. And on the right, this has been adjusted to close. You see this going down in blue to 0 during unoccupied hours. Next one, please. Again, a simple fix on set points. The energy associated with humidification is significant. Having set points beyond what is, the minimum required and needed per codes and standard is not is energy intensive. So you see the first one in red, relative humidity set point was 45 and brought down to 30% in line with the recommendations. And next one, please. Again, I guess we all know the importance of having calibrated and well-maintained field devices like temperature sensors and actuators. Like these are directly related to performance, and they would impact performance significantly. So here's an example where on the chart below in blue, you see the cooling coil valve opening 100%. This is, I think, on June 10, and you see the supply temperature of the coil being higher than the mixed air temperature, which indicates something wrong. So these are simple stuff, but directly impacting performance. Next one, please. Yeah, and if I want to summarize, the key finding, most important findings of these analysis and the guide, I think the most important one is there's a significant potential savings coming from operational optimization. And that does not mean it requires significant capital investments. This can be leveraged through the available BAS. And what we also noted that mostly BAS is still being used as a reactive troubleshooting tool, and although trend logs are there and fault detection, but they're not being proactively used to manage performance. And the third thing, I think performance won't stick if it is not embedded in operations. Like if the team has the capacity to do that in-house, that will be great. If not, these should be embedded in performance-based contracts, like service level agreements, so that they don't get lost. And fourth, as I think Ian mentioned, like benchmarking, know where you stand, where you want to go. So having your buildings benchmarked and getting your targets and working towards that target is key. And then making use, as I said, of these really practical appendices and templates we've included. They could help leverage BAS as a performance commissioning tool. Next one. Yeah, over to you, Amandeep.
Thanks, Mark. And for everybody joined us for this. This is probably your time to also ask questions. So for whatever you heard, and please feel free to use the Q&A section of the call to add your questions. So let me start this, and thanks, Graham and Aman, for your time to be part of this conversation today. So we're going to focus the next 10 to 15 minutes around the BAS and operational measures and what your two colleges have been currently doing and how you sort of are trying to achieve those operational savings and excellence. And some of that, I'll probably start with Aman with you, is some of the, as you see, your rankings sort of have improved over the years, and some of that is probably contributed towards by those operational savings. and continuous sort of commissioning that you're currently doing. So maybe if you can elaborate on some of the lessons learned through this, and Ian touched on that these are easy measure, but sometimes, I mean, they're not easy to implement as well. So some of the lessons learned for colleges and universities that are going to be on that path of looking at deeper into these operational measures, how can they achieve it, whether with their internal team or external partners? Like, what are some of the success stories and what are some of the challenges that you see in implementing these? I'm not, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Emily, for the question. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I mean, in terms of lessons learned, I'd say there's a lot, but maybe I can share just a couple. Um, I think, it was touched on by Mark when he was going through the guide. Trending was one that was really a big one for us. Like, it's so valuable. I mean, on the BAS, you can look at the systems in real time, which is great. But being able to go back and look at the historical data is so valuable when you're doing the commissioning. Um, and so I would say get on that early on, come up with a trending standard, and do it all as a project. One project, hit your whole portfolio. Um, so we developed the trending standard with our BAS contractor. And we needed to have that collaboration with them to make sure, all of the trends we wanted to set up, that the infrastructure could handle it. The existing BAS panels had memory, it wouldn't affect network traffic, all these things, right? But once it was developed, we got a student in and they set everything up, right? We trained the student on how to set up trends and they put everything in place. So yeah. So the trending is really important. I was really happy to see in this guide that in the appendix, you basically have like a section recommending all the key trends to set up for the various systems. Like, we had to create that from scratch. So you have a head start if you're looking at the guide here, which is really great. And then one other thing I'd probably share is that, yeah, a lot of stuff is really easy. It's low-hanging fruit when it comes to optimizing the BAS, but some of it is also complicated. Like, some of these optimized sequences, they are fairly complicated. So don't expect to just hand over a written sequence of operation to a BAS contractor and expect them to just get it right. It's an iterative process and it's a partnership. You're going to have to work with them hand in hand to get it working the way you want in the end. And don't forget about your operators, right? So as you're putting these sequences in place, make sure you have what you need on the graphics to be able to adjust things, do training with your operators, make sure they're on board and that they understand how these sequences work.
Awesome. Thanks, Aman. Graham, you're going through that process right now with multiple of your buildings and leveraging the incentive programs through ISO and Enbridge. Like, what has your experience so far is been on the implementation of these measures, and how are you creating that kind of a business case internally to do this within your organization?
Thanks, Amandeep. So, can you hear me? Everybody good? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the biggest challenge from a financials set point has been the controls cost. So whereas bringing the consultants in and we get good incentives, there's a really high controls hour cost for some of this programming, at least from our end, where you go into the controls contractors and you're getting scope of work, giving them a scope of work, writing them a sequence, and then they're coming back and it's 3 times what you budgeted. So on our first round of EBCX, that's what hit us. But as we completed the implementation, the payback has still been there. So even though we were paying 3 times more for the controls work, the savings have been they've been paying for themselves. To the 2 campuses, well, the 2 buildings, one's a campus, one's a building, have done really well. One's saving 300,000 kilowatt hours a year. We just found that out from our during our M&V after 1 year post implementation. So 35% reduction in greenhouse gas. So there's really good high selling points, at least to hire. Even if you have high costs, there's really good selling points, like key findings for the executive branch.
Thanks, Graham. Mark, for colleges or universities that are embarking on this and looking to do this, how can they use this guide, and what are some of the things that the guide sort of help them to streamline this process of implementing the recommissioning or low or operational measures in their facilities?
Yes, that's a great question. So if we said like we want to start tomorrow with few buildings to test, like prototype for the campus, like you just need to pick a starting point. So select a few buildings, benchmark them, know where they stand, set their targets, and work towards this target. And so how to work towards this target using first BAS, looking at the BAS and high impact measures first. So we all know there are really low-hanging fruits, like after hours runtime, missing setbacks, overrides, economizers, not properly behaving, so something like that. So the guide is really very practical here about what to trend and what patterns to look for. So it helps you throughout this stage. And then you need to make changes, make these changes, but do them in small steps so that you can prove the results of these changes. So, and also there's an appendix that include a really easy tool to use where you could do some of these changes and track them and document them. So yeah, this is really a practical appendices that would help you along the process.
Thanks, Mark. Aman, back to you. As you probably experiences some of these implementations, whether that's HVAC scheduling or optimization around differential pressure sensor or optimization of static pressure reset, some of these go back to original. Like some of they go back and there's multiple reasons. Sometimes there's issues with operator training. Sometimes there's elements of controls not being reviewed. How do you plan moving forward? Maybe there's some of the things as we talk, getting a feedback from you on the guide, we added those elements into that. How do you plan to use some of the guide documentation that could sort of be enforced more through some of the contract pieces? For example, working with a BAS contractor, is there an opportunity for colleges and universities to go back and say, can you periodically check my sequences? And these are the things that I should be checking. Is there an opportunity to sort of have those conversations? And is that something in-house could be done, or that's something you work with a building automation controls contractor to do that? How do you see that practically looking at happen?
Yeah, I think the guide is really helpful. Like I was really, like we've been doing the BAS sequence optimization for years and years, right? We've kind of been stumbling our way through it and learning lessons as we go. And so I was just happy to see it all there in writing, you know, um, with a lot of the key points. And I wish we had a guide like this when we started because we would have saved a lot of time. Um, and so us going forward, I mean, it's a nice piece for us to look back at and make sure we're still on the right track with how we're doing things. I like that it's not all just technical. It emphasizes a lot of soft things like, training your operators, going back and continuously monitoring systems, right? You think you're done a lot of times, but especially for the first year, right? Like the seasonal changes and, us in post-secondary with semesters changing and things, like I guarantee you within the first year, you're going to be going back and tweaking things. So I like that all that is described in the guide. Um, in terms of the BAS service provider and their role in a lot of this, I mean, they're clearly a big player. Um, I don't know if we've fully wrapped our head around how we would do everything that's called out in the guide, right? Like, fully agree that it's important to have calibrated sensors and go back and look at all your systems, on a cycle. But given the size of some of our portfolios, like becomes cost prohibitive, right? Just given the quantity of devices we're talking about. So I think our goal is to approach it um, more on a case-by-case basis with fault detection or alarming, and then have that pinpoint exactly where we're gonna go and look, but not necessarily look at everything on a cycle. I think we're just concerned about that maybe getting too cost prohibitive.
Fair enough. Michael, Mark, one of the things that I think you've seen in when you're working with um, on sort of investigation phase of this guide and also documenting things that there's always challenge with the turnover, right? Like the BAS, either contractor, they have a new sort of tech that comes inside, and the knowledge didn't get passed on. Even within the operators, there is a turnover. Like, how does universities and colleges ensure that once there's something implemented, and it doesn't typically rely on having that one person knowledge to be kept so that the system has to work? Like, what are some of the things that are embedded in the guide that helps colleges to kind of, and universities to implement those, and those could remain permanently in there?
Right. You've touched on really one of the key items of this guide. So the intent is not to have a one-time tune-up of systems, that are going to deteriorate with time if not really attended to regularly. So the approach is to make it as simple as possible, make it a routine, and then make it also measurable. So this is all have like the basis of all of this is trending, but not to like overdo it and spend too much time on that. It's minimum trending, but so that you always keep the right evidence, and that would allow you to catch any drift early. So also, as you mentioned, the guide does include a simple test and report template. So all of the changes done, like nothing fancy, nothing, it's not a commissioning report. It's just few quick checks that can be done by the team just to justify if and test if the changes are working as intended, or they still need further adjustments, and provide append few screenshots to prove this. This actually encourages the team to incorporate this into a routine and into how they work. And it doesn't really depend on one champion. So it's important to have it like a mentality across the team, and not only led by one person that and gets lost when this person is moves on. So same thing, if the internal team does not have the capacity, these would need to be embedded in service level agreements and BAS contracts, so they then don't get lost. So this checklist and all of these tools and the appendices will help team, prioritize measures, use the templates for verification and documentation. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark. Graham, you're doing this work now, as we talked about, in multiple buildings, where in some institutes there is internal resources, but in other institutes there are not enough internal resources to sort of implement these. Like, how in your case were you able to pull the right partners and made a case to do this work, because as you feel like this is important to you and your organization, and you're getting success in that. Like, what is sort of some of the recommendations for the colleges that are on there, or universities that want to sort of start this process? Like, what are key things that they need to look for, kind of the partners they're bringing together, and what are some of the recommendations you're giving them when you're implementing these measures across your facilities?
Yeah, it's a great point. So a really strong RFP at the start will sort of protect you from bringing a consultant that may be underbidding, or the lowest bidder sort of mentality that we get stuck with in private sector. So a really strong RFP with very specific goals. Cutting and pasting the appendixes out of this document and putting it in the RFP would be really useful too. I didn't get the chance to do that, but I will on my next one. Appendix A should just be right in your Appendix A of your RFP. You will review the following. Because if you hit everything in Appendix A, you pretty much covered an EBCX in your building. minus the things that you're not going to see. And then as you start, if you talk to your consultant and you ask them to explain the items in Appendix A and what they think, pick a few of them. If they're able to explain that right off the bat, then you've got a very strong partner. And then bringing your controls provider in at the start, making sure that they have buy-in. I mean, technically you're hiring them, but they don't, and not everybody's equal at their organization. I know when we were dealing with our controls provider, we asked for very specific people to do the work for implementation because they knew our systems, and I wasn't allowing, the junior to come in and work on this project. I said, no, we're going to delay. Like this has to be done correctly. And even the few times we had to let a few people come in and work on it, we ended up going back because there was some labeling issues. So strong consultant, strong RFP, get that out. We have one circling around. I know it's been shared several times. So if you reach out to myself or Aman, I'm pretty sure we've been using the same sort of template model. Yeah.
Thanks, Rem. This is really good. Like, thanks everybody for your inputs into this. As you could see, this implementing sort of operational measures do need a lot of collaborations. And if you're industry and listening to these conversations, you can know that there's an expertise that is required, and there's probably a missing gap as we tend to implement these. So filling those gaps is going to be a key, and that is your business development opportunities within this sector. If you're industry and you're looking to grow, the key thing is that absorbing this opportunity and taking on this challenge of implementing the operational measures in this current environment where capital is very restricted and restrained, and the utilities are, and everybody's looking for reduction in operating cost and emission savings. The path has to go through implementing these operational savings. So thank you again for the panelists. We really appreciate your time. So I just have a couple more slides to finish up this, if you guys stay with us. So the next step in this is, if you have reviewed your ranking or you've looked at your data and some of the things that are not making sense, please do reach out to us. We will be happily able to look at your data and sort of make those changes as needed. And then in terms of sort of recommissioning and operation measures, any questions regarding the guide, please feel free to reach out to us. Like RFP requirements, as Graham mentioned and Aman mentioned, there's templates. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So we're there happy to help. And we would love to see you guys become the top savers in 2027, so we can showcase your case studies and have everybody sort of get excited for these operational improvements changes. So as discussed again, if you do feel to connect with us on any of these topics, please, we'll share our information at the end, and happy to have a conversation done one-on-one and provide you any documentation need to achieve these improvements. Join us. So as we talked about through this presentation, this is not something we can alone do. This is a collaboration among us, utilities, industry partners, colleges, universities, and that is only the way we can establish what we are trying to do here. So we got to work, as this is not a single source sort of work in terms of achieving these collaborations help. We don't have to reinvent the wheels. And at post-secondary institution, we do all of this. So being part of this community and network, we'll be working with you. We'll help you with your business case. We'll help you share the lessons learned that are there, that we have learned over the years working on these building types, and happy to sort of support those conversations, develop the business case with you so we can see the progress in this sector, connect you with utility companies, incentive programs. All of these are part of our sort of mandate to help this sector, and we're happy to sort of continue these efforts and this journey along with you. And we hope that you can join us. And if you have any questions regarding that, again, please feel free to reach us. Next slide, please. These are the contacts information. So Heather Bell, she's the Director of Program and Partnership Development. Anything related from the industry side on the sponsorships and all of those details, please reach out to her. Natalie's the program manager, so she can reach out to her about your ranking, your targets, and next steps getting involved in the program itself. So she's your contact, and I'll be there to support all of these conversations around the technical and sort of business development pieces. So within your organization. So thanks again for your time. We appreciate your time. The recording is going to be posted, and that is the end of the session. Thank you.